Welcome to the SAFeTY Chronicles, exploring how to keep people and pets safe from the cycle of interpersonal violence. I am your host, Allie Phillips, founder and CEO of Sheltering Animals and Families Together, the SAFeTY Program, a nonprofit organization working with domestic violence shelters to eliminate the pet housing barrier to safety. As the founder, I have led the global movement in helping domestic violence shelters create on-site pet housing while elevating the criminal justice response to how animal abuse links to crimes against people. I am a former prosecuting attorney, internationally recognized legal expert and public speaker, award-winning author, and advocate for protecting vulnerable victims. In this podcast, we will explore how and why animals are harmed in the cycle of family violence and the human-animal bond that keeps victims in harm's way with their pets. Guest speakers and I will share strategies for shelters and professionals working to safeguard survivors, why pet-inclusive sheltering is life-saving, and safety tips for those who need help. None of the content will be graphic. If you are in harm's way, please contact your nearest domestic violence shelter or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. All right, we're back for another episode of the podcast. I've got my cup of joe in my cat mug, and I got Rudy, my chief feline officer, on the back of my chair, micromanaging my work. He's always on the back of my chair. So, all right, let's dive into this topic, which is a really important topic for those who are running a domestic violence shelter, because you have to have funding to operate a domestic violence shelter. We all know this. And one of the primary concerns that I know a domestic violence shelter has about housing pets on site is how are they going to fund it? Okay, so I want to talk about funding options. Now, in a prior podcast, I talked about different housing models for pets. There are two housing models that literally are so affordable. You may not have to expend any money, at least to get started. Housing option one, putting pets in the room, costs you no money as a shelter. You just put them in the room with their family. Housing option two is creating an indoor kennel, and it can be very simplistic. Having some crates, some kennels in a room, in a basement, in an attached garage that is properly ventilated, and you can often get those crates donated, especially if your animal shelter partner has those to donate. So what I like to do as the founder and the CEO of the SAFeTY Program is to talk directly with shelters about their funding concerns, their financial concerns, and help them understand the ease and the simplicity of how this can be and how they can fund it. So one of the SAFeTY board members, her name is Carol Wick. She's the former executive director of Harbor House in Orlando, Florida, and she created and launched an amazing on-site pet housing program, built a tremendous facility on site there. And one time I remember she said this to me: when you open your doors to pets, the money flows. And Carol is so right about that. And that has been my experience in working with shelters. When you open your doors to pets, the money flows. But I totally understand that the biggest concern that shelters have is how are they going to afford getting started, and how do you sustain it? From my perspective, money should not be your concern. Oh yes, you heard me right. Money should not be your primary concern. Here's why. Even during economically challenging times, the SAFeTY Program of housing pets on site, this is what communities love to support. And it is a unique opportunity to apply for grants. It is a unique opportunity in your community to tap in to the people who love animals. People who love animals love to support programs that are about keeping animals safe. So many domestic violence shelters that are starting the process to house animals will initially look for grants to fund their startup. Now, like I said, if you're putting pets directly in the room, you really don't need money. You just do it. Okay, you just do it. What you most need are policies and procedures, and that's where the SAFeTY program can help you with that. But grants are a great way to get started. And if you go to the SAFeTY website, SAFTprogram.org, there is a link of grant opportunities. And so you can check these out. Grants are plentiful right now, from private companies to nonprofits to the federal government, funding the creation of pet-friendly domestic violence shelters. But at some point, grant funding could dry up, or a grantor may only allow you to apply one time to get started. So then what do you do? So while I think grants are amazing and beneficial, this is not what you want to rely on. Okay, the best way to fund your on-site pet housing SAFeTY program is to engage your community. This is what I love talking to shelters about. Because people who love animals, they donate to animal causes. Even during financially difficult times, they donate to animal causes. I think back to the 2007 through 2009 economic crash that we had here in the United States. Donations were still flowing in to support animals. People will support animals, even during difficult times. And it's an opportunity for a domestic violence shelter to tap into a new donor community. These are donors who likely don't even know that you exist or the important work that you do. Now, I don't want anyone to view this as taking donors away from the animal shelters and the animal rescues and the animal causes. You know, I have cats, I donate to animal causes, and me adding another organization that I donate to doesn't take away from those that I already donate to. And that's what I find in the animal community. We find a way to make it work. So please do not view this as taking away donors from animal causes. People who donate to animal causes are generous, and they will embrace that you are doing something innovative and that you are helping to keep pets with their families, that you are avoiding these pets from going into shelter and being surrendered. So my advice is to advertise that your shelter is in the process of becoming pet friendly, or you are pet friendly. And you can do this by putting it on social media. You can create a wish list on your website of the needs that you need to house pets on site. Do you need litter boxes? Do you need dog collars? Do you need dog leashes? Do you need litter? Do you need dog food, cat food, puppy food, kitten food? What do you need? Put that on your wish list. Domestic violence shelters publicize a public wish list of the things that they need. Start adding pet items to that, because these are the things that people love to help with. I will never forget. This was quite a while ago. I was actually sitting in my office outside the Washington, D.C. area in Alexandria, Virginia, and it was just when I had launched this program publicly and written the first set of guidelines. And I get a call from an older woman who was retired and living in Oklahoma. By the way, that's my cat's tail. That's Dobby. Dobby, sit down. He loves to do that. It's his way of saying hello to you. Anyway, I get this phone call from this woman in Oklahoma, and she called me up and she said, I just bought an extra bag of cat food and I would like to donate it to a domestic violence shelter in my community that houses pets. Can you please tell me what shelter does that? Well, this was very early on in the program, and I probably
had at best a dozen shelters doing this. We are now over 325. And I said to her, I said, "Oh, ma'am, I'm so sorry. There are none in Oklahoma." And she's like, "Oh, well, that's a pity." And I said, "Would you be willing to mail that bag if there was another shelter that could benefit?" And she said, "Absolutely. I'll put it in a box and I will mail it wherever you tell me to mail it." And I said, "Well, here are states that I have right now that have a SAFeTY program." And I was reading off the states, and I remember there was Florida, there was North Carolina, there was Wyoming, and there was Alaska. And I heard some excitement in her voice, and she said, "Ooh, I've always wanted to go to Alaska." And I said, "Do you want to mail your bag of cat food to a shelter in Alaska?" And she said, "Yes, I very much do." So I gave her the address and the name of the contact, and I said, "Just put a little note in there, of who you are and what this is." And she must have forgotten to put the note in because it was about 3 weeks later, I get a call from the contact at the shelter. And she said, "Allie, I got a bag of cat food in the mail. Do you know anything about this?" And I laughed and I said, "Yes." I said that just this lady who just wanted to help. And she said, "Oh my gosh, this is so awesome. We've never gotten food from Oklahoma before." So this is the sort of stuff that happens. So people may want to donate food or supplies or money or help in other ways. So, people who love to donate to animal causes may not understand the dynamics of how animal abuse connects to domestic violence and child abuse. So, this is a real opportunity for you as a domestic violence shelter to educate your community. So, this is interesting. In a national survey by True Sense Marketing about who donates to help animals and why, the results found that baby boomers and Gen X, I'm Gen X here, woohoo! Baby boomers and Gen X engage in the most charitable giving. They give to multiple organizations that help animals. That's number one. They have cats, which is important to understand in a dog centric pet world. There's a lot of cat people out there. There's a lot of cats out there. Number three, they prefer special, like more personalized events for annual giving that involve pets. And number four, they are motivated to give based on local impact. So they support spaying and neutering. So consider offering that to your clients. And maybe you can do fundraising, hey, as we have a resident come into shelter, we want to offer free spay neuter services. Okay. Or finding good home for pets, which includes keeping pets of domestic violence with their family. So these are specialized things that you can do as a shelter to market for fundraising. Donors give to help animals because animals are part of the family. And this is why the SAFeTY program is a wonderful way for your shelter to reach new donors, because these interests are already built in and they want to help you. So it's important to let future donors and existing donors know that giving an unrestricted gift to you is important because it's going to help the entire pet family. And what you're doing in the process is you are raising awareness about your overall domestic violence shelter and all the services that you provide. Now, one thing to keep in mind is you may need to raise funds for specific things. The first aim is to receive donated items. This is what I love talking to shelters about. Always ask for free stuff and free services getting set up. So, for example, your setup cost, are you building an outdoor kennel or a play area for dogs? Are you building an indoor kennel? Do you need crates? Do you need carriers? What do you need? Always ask for free first. You can go to your animal shelter partner. You can go to your veterinary partner. You can put a call out to your community. This is the benefit of social media. Put your call out there specifically about what you want. Do you need pet related materials? If you have the SAFeTY Startup Manual, I have a whole list in there under materials and supplies of things that you're going to want to have on hand. Okay. Do you need a security system with locks, a security camera, and an alarm for any sort of outdoor enclosure? Do you need funds to provide emergency or basic veterinary care for animals that are coming into your care? So these are the specific things that you can ask for. Now, when you are first looking at raising money to set up your pet housing program and to purchase some basic supplies, like I said, always ask for donated items first or items at cost. Create a relationship with your local pet food store. Find out if they have damaged pet items that can be donated. A lot of pet stores end up with bags that have been ripped and broken open, and they tape them up, but they're not going to sell them like that. So ask them, hey, can we have your broken bags, your dented cans? Ask your animal protection partner if they have donated supplies that are not being used, such as leashes and bowls, litter boxes, food, kitten formula, that sort of thing. Animal shelters do get a lot of supplies, many of which they may not be able to use. So ask them. Okay. Never hesitate to ask. I am all about hashtag free stuff. Okay. Ask for the free stuff. Now, I love to brainstorm fundraising options with shelters. Okay. So if you are a domestic violence shelter and if you are in the process of wanting to set up on-site pet housing, or you already do, you can just email me and say, can we have a brainstorming session? Oh, heck yes. I love brainstorming. I don't know. I think this is just kind of how I'm hardwired. I love to brainstorm. And the more I am talking, I just come up with some crazy ideas. Crazy ideas. So, when I initially launched the SAFeTY program, I created what was called National SAFeTY Day. And I think it was the first or the second Saturday in October during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I just asked shelters, hey, come together on a day and host a dog walk in your community to raise awareness about the connection between domestic violence and animal abuse. Host a dog walk, you're going to raise money, and then you can do whatever you want in addition to that. Oh my goodness, what the shelters did was awesome. Some shelters held a dog costume party because it was, the same month as Halloween, and they had a costume contest. I even went to one shelter in Whiteville, North Carolina. I drove from Northern Virginia, where I lived at the time, down to Whiteville and participated in their dog walk. And it was the most awesome thing. Now, I don't host National SAFeTY Day anymore. I should. I don't know why I don't. But here's the thing. Host events to bring your community together. So you can host a dog walk. You could host coffee with the cats, cocktails with the cats, martinis and mutts, all sorts of things. I remember when I was part of creating a nonprofit out of our local animal control shelter where we raised money to offer services that the animal control shelter didn't. Spaying and neutering, paying for rescue fees, adoption fees, all sorts of things. And we held we called it Kitties and Cocktails. And all the volunteers, we brought food, like really nice, like cocktail type food. And we were able to get donations of wine and mocktails and things like that. And we hosted it at one of our volunteers' homes. We probably had 100 people show up. We raised over $5,000 in one evening. It was unbelievable, and it was the most fun thing ever. So this is what I love brainstorming with. Now, you can partner with your animal protection partner for a fundraiser. Your partner should understand that your program of housing pets on site is reducing the number of pets from going into an overcrowded animal shelter. Okay, so ask to join in on their fundraisers that they have scheduled, or create a joint fundraiser where you work together to raise awareness about how animal abuse and domestic violence link together. You could host a Blessing of the Animals event that occurs every October. I have seen several domestic violence shelters do this, and people will bring their pets. They have a blessing of the animals. Maybe they partner it with a dog walk. It happens to occur during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So, fun events like that. You can go in and you can speak at community organizations like Kiwanis Club, Rotary Clubs, Zonta Clubs. All of those clubs have an interest in the SAFeTY program. Go in, talk to them, let them know what you need, okay? Reach out to other community groups and even classrooms of, within the school district in your community. Ask them to adopt your pet housing program. Be sure to provide them a list of items that you need or a fundraising goal that you have so that these groups and these classrooms know what sort of support that you need. They could do a pet food drive. They could do a pet toy drive. They could do a pet blanket or pet bed drive. They could just go out and raise money. So, go out and talk to them. Also, service organizations like Boy Scouts, Eagle Scouts, Girl Scouts, Brownies, they can assist you actually if you want to build something physical for housing the animals. So, I have several stories of where these service organizations built an on-site outdoor pet kennel or pet housing building. There is a shelter in Utah who had an Eagle Scout working to earn a badge, and he built their outdoor pet kennel for them. Earned his badge, they got a free pet kennel. So this is the thing, always ask your community. And this engages your community and gets them helping. You can go into churches and other organizations and tell them what you're doing. I think you're going to be amazed at the community support. But there's lots of community events that you can host, like a yappy hour at a local brewery or pub. I know domestic violence shelters who have hosted Zumba classes and yoga classes where a portion of the money goes to their pet housing program, or they have pizza parties, or a spaghetti dinner, or paint and drink wine event. I've been to one of those. It was amazing. You could also create a sponsor a pet program where people can donate. This is especially effective if you have a pet come into care who has some veterinary needs that need to be taken care of, whether from abuse or just from neglect, or they need spaying and neutering, they need update on their vaccines. You could have donate $20, to help update the vaccines of a dog or a cat. Donate $50, to support spaying and neutering. And of course, we always recommend work out a reduced fee schedule with your veterinary partner, and then put those prices on your website and on your social media pages where you can donate a specific amount that goes to help a pet specifically. People love the specifics, like I donated this and this happened. And then when you send your donation letter, you can say your donation helped a cat who came into care last week and we were able to get the veterinary work done. You're not disclosing any personal information or any identifying information, but gosh, does that make people feel good. Now, what are some other things you can do? You can place donation canisters and drop boxes, for pet related items at local stores. You can ask local businesses to have a drop box. It doesn't have to be a pet store. It could be your best friend runs a real estate business and they can have a drop box or a donation box in their lobby. You could ask local businesses to become corporate sponsors of your pet housing program and include their name, their logo on materials. I mentioned Harbor House in Orlando, Florida. I remember when I was visiting, when they were building their facility, and then when they did the grand opening, when you walk into the pet housing area, they have this wall of ceramic plaques where businesses as well as people could buy a plaque, and you can memorialize your business, you can memorialize a pet, you can put anything on there. People love that. I mean, I cannot tell you how many plaque memorials in the names of my cats I have around the community. They love that. So you can ask them to become corporate sponsors that way. You can also go into your community. I know I'm throwing a lot at you. I hope you're taking notes. Um, you can ask for gift cards so that you can go and purchase the things at pet stores that you need. Okay. Um, Speaking of pet stores and pet food, go to rescuebank.org and see if your shelter qualifies for free pet food. Okay. Um, Online, you can create a GoFundMe account or some sort of crowdfunding. Check out waggle.com if you have a pet that comes in and needs extensive, medical work, veterinary work done. You can go to these sites, GoFundMe, waggle.com, and you can set up a crowdfunding option to raise money. But here's the thing, be vocal. Be vocal on social media when you need funds for supplies or for services, for one of your animal residents. Be specific on your website about what you need in supplies, and be precise about funding options. Like I said, donate $20 to pay for the vaccinations of an animal, donate $50 to pay for spaying and neutering. Donate $100 to help us buy a crate, donate, $1,000 to help us, build our outdoor play area. Be specific. People love that. And in all of your shelter's fundraising activities, be sure to include information about the SAFeTY program, about how animal abuse links to domestic violence. You can take information off of our website. We've got a lot of printable materials that you can hand out. And what you're doing is you're educating your community, you're drawing in support of people who love animals, while simultaneously educating people about all the amazing work that you do as a domestic violence shelter. Okay. So like I said at the beginning, applying for a grant can be a great first option to get started. But here's the thing. I know it takes a lot of time to apply for a grant. I wrote a lot of grants when I worked for the National District Attorneys Association. If you don't have a grant writer, you can just start engaging your community, being vocal, being public, being out there, and it will sustain your program long-term because you have local support and you don't have to worry about grant funds drying up. So I hope that this was helpful. I'd love for you to post a comment. And if you are listening to this and you don't work or volunteer at a domestic violence shelter, would you please share it with your local domestic violence shelter? I would love this information to get to them. And if you are a domestic violence shelter and you want to brainstorm, you can see I have a lot of options in my brain. And I would love to brainstorm specifically what would benefit your shelter in your community, because every shelter and community is different. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like this podcast, subscribe to our podcast, and share this with a domestic violence shelter in your community. Take care. If you are in harm's way and need help, please visit the Pet Inclusive Shelter listing at safetyprogram.org. Call your nearest domestic violence shelter, or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. Want to support our efforts and help us keep the SAFeTY Startup Manual free for domestic violence shelters? Consider donating at safetyprogram.org/donate. Your donation saves lives.